Enough Clipper, hi friends. Darth Momo here to talk about Ahsoka. Um, I am going to talk about the whole season, but I'll leave a section for the finale. And if you want to talk or listen to my video about just the finale and nothing else, skip to this timestamp on the screen right now. Overall, I enjoyed this show. I know it got a lot of flack, at least at the beginning. Um, I did think that the second half of the show was a lot better than the first. The first episode was a little boring, I don't want to say boring, but a little slow. The second episode I thought was better than the first, but it was still kind of along that trend. And the third I thought was the best of that bunch, but not completely what the rest of the show was. And then I think episode 4 is where the show finally started to pick up some speed and pick up some ground and get good. I definitely enjoyed every episode since then. I enjoyed the 4th episode. I thought it was fun it felt like some action was happening. It felt like the plot was moving along. It felt like we were actually starting to pick up speed and kick things in gear. The 5th episode, some questions, we'll say. It was kind of confusing, a little bit, or what's the word I want to use? Convoluted, unclear, but I definitely enjoyed all the Clone Wars flashbacks and all the Clone Wars stuff and Hayden. And then the 6th episode was the best, having Thrawn back, and then obviously Ezra pops up, and then the 7th episode was, I would say, a little less than the 6th, but I still enjoyed the 7th episode. And then we'll talk about the finale in a second, but I think that all the actors did well. I'll break that up. Rosario Dawson, I still wasn't really crazy about her as Ahsoka. Got better in the second half of the show after she becomes Ahsoka the White. At first, she was kind of bland, but I think based off of what happened within the show, I think that was intentional. I didn't personally enjoy it, but that was still, I think, intentional. I don't think that was quote-unquote bad acting. I think she was acting the way she was told to. I thought Natasha Leo Bordizzo, I think that's how you say her name. I thought she did great as Sabine. It felt just like Sabine, even from her first scene when it's got her on the speeder and it's playing like the rock music, and she's just like, yeah, I got a new one order for you. Yeah, lost. Like, that felt like Sabine. Hera's actress, what's her name? Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I thought she did good as Hera. It took a little getting used to, but I think she nailed the mannerisms and the kind of speech patterns of Hera. Iman Asfandi did excellent as Ezra. Perfect. It definitely felt like Ezra straight out of Rebels, had a few years on him. You know, he's been fewer through things, but yeah, I very much enjoyed his portrayal of the character. Lars Mikkelsen, you gotta hand it to him. He is Thrawn, perfect as Thrawn. It felt just like you plucked him out of Rebels. Thought it was a great transition to live action, and Hayden Christensen, of course, we're gonna give a shout out to him. Knocked it out of the park just like he did in Obi-Wan. I definitely wish we could see more of Hayden, and I definitely wish we could have felt or gotten some of this Hayden in the prequels. You know, as much as I don't hate those movies, I don't exactly love them either. And, you know, I don't think Hayden Christensen got the proper due respect he deserved. I think he got overly hated. But that being said, I don't think he had a exactly stellar performance in those films either. It was great to see him in these roles, and it makes me miss him, makes me want more of him. I don't know if we're going to get that or not, but it would be awesome to get more of him. The only thing I don't like about Hayden is that they changed his Force Ghost Jedi robes in the finale. Now he's got the Revenge of the Sith robes instead of the Return of the Jedi robes, which I had a feeling that probably ended up happening, but I still like the idea of him wearing the plain Jedi robes like in Return of the Jedi. Sorry, excuse me. What else was there? Let's talk about Balin's skull and Shin Hati. Don't get me wrong. I thought Ray Stevenson delivered an excellent performance. The problem was just there was nothing to his character. Like, there was at least two different solid opportunities. Like I get at first, like, you don't have to outright, have an opening exposition monologue on someone's motivations and what they want. But that fight with Ahsoka in the 4th episode, I thought would have been a perfect time, and it was a very missed opportunity in my opinion. And we still don't even know what he wants. And I don't know if we're going to. Like, I don't know if they're going to recast him or if they're just going to let him be because Ray Stevenson died. So I don't know what they're going to do with his character in the future. But yeah, I don't know what the guy's motivations are. I mean, I thought Ray Stevenson still delivered an excellent performance, but as far as the writing of his character, yeah, I don't know what he wants. Same with Shin Hati. She just kind of felt like she was there, and I don't know where her story ended up. I definitely loved all the Rebels connections, though, the Rebels nods. There's various fun things, seeing, like, as an animation Star Wars fan, seeing live-action Captain Rex, seeing live-action Ryder Azadi, seeing Lothal, and that same freeway they used to speed up and down in the show. That was cool to see. There was a lot of cool callbacks, but all in all, I think the show's a mixed bag. Now we'll kind of start talking about the finale, too. The finale didn't feel completely rushed to me like it did with the Book of Boba Fett, but it didn't feel satisfying either. I'm assuming they're going to do a season 2. I don't know how they wouldn't, because it would feel kind of awkward to pick up all these character beats in the 4th season of The Mandalorian, or I'd imagine by the time they get to the Mandoverse movie, they'd have to have all this kind of stuff wrapped up, so I'd imagine they're going to do a season 2. And, I mean, if they are, I get it. You know, you don't have to resolve everything by the end of your first season if you're doing a multi-season show. But there were still things I wanted to see, too. You know, I wanted to see various things like, I wanted to see at least an example of why it was so bad that Thrawn got back to the galaxy. Let's have him beat up a couple of ships. You know, I would have loved to have had, even if, I know the CGI is expensive to animate, but even if we just had a cameo at the end with Zeb and reuniting with Ezra and Hera, that would have been fun. I think that was deserved. You don't make a Rebels season 5 and not throw Zeb in there. Even Captain Rex popping up would have been nice too. I don't know, like, it all felt like it happened in the last 5 minutes. Like, I enjoyed the finale as an episode, but it felt like it almost should have been like the penultimate episode. Like, this is what the episode before the finale should have been, and then you have the actual finale with now Thrawn's back in the galaxy. Let's tie all that up. I mean, we know the first thing that's going to happen with Ahsoka and Sabine is they're going to get back to the main galaxy in the next batch of episodes or in the next story. They already hinted at that with Morai, and they're probably going to use the World Between Worlds, which is fine, but they could have ended that off on this show. But like I said, I mean, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of things that could have been translated better for a general audience. We as Rebels fans know, Thrawn's back. This is a problem. We know why. But the casual audience doesn't know that. They don't know Thrawn outside of this. So I thought it would have been a good example to, or a good idea to show why it's a bad thing. We can't just talk about him all season and just end with him being back. We got to go and show why it's a bad thing that he's back. I still would have loved, like, a happy ending reunion too. Like, even though we have, like, bittersweet of, like, Thrawn being back in the galaxy, but hey, all the heroes are reunited. We're ready to take them on, and we're ready to nip this thing in the bud. And obviously that'll have to wait a little bit. But there was some good moments. Like, I got chills when Hera and Ezra reunited. That was awesome. Sabine, let's talk about Sabine using the Force too. I'm not going to call it a retcon. I think that kind of monologue or that speech on the Force, that scene on the Force, I think in the 3rd or the 4th episode, where Ahsoka tells, like, yeah, talent does help, but that's not the only factor into that. I did think this is using George Lucas's views, which he, taught to Dave Filoni on the Force perfectly, and it's a perfect example. I didn't want Sabine for that choice. I like Sabine the way she was, just, the Mandalorian. I like Sabine as Sabine. I think that was a great story, and I love that idea, but I would have preferred that on a different character. So I'm not a big fan of the idea of Sabine being a Jedi, but I'm not going to call it a retcon either. And I'm not going to say that it just comes out of nowhere either. Like, oh yeah, I'm a woman. Yeah, now I could use the Force. And no, like, I think that it was definitely handled as well as it could have been throughout the show. I think if it was just a brand new character that was learning to use the Force at such a high age, just some random character, I think the story would have been fine. I think my only problem with it is the fact that it was Sabine. So that's my thoughts on Sabine using the Force. But obviously it's happened. It is what it is. I just hope they don't overplay it. I like how they're still kind of mixing it. Like, yeah, she uses the Force a couple times in the finale, but she's still running around using her blasters, being Sabine that we know from Rebels. So I hope that they continue to keep it subtle. I'd imagine probably not, depending on how long she's stranded out in the other galaxy with Ahsoka. There's a lot of time for training. But yeah, those are my thoughts overall on Ahsoka. I think that it was a rougher ride. I don't want to say it was straight up bad. I don't think so. There was still a lot to enjoy for me personally. It definitely felt like a proper Rebel sequel. And it felt like the natural conclusion of that story, or continuation of that story. I mean, obviously, if Thrawn got back to the galaxy, this is essentially what was going to happen. He's going to get ready to take down the New Republic. So, to me, this felt like the natural continuation of that story. I don't know. I hope that, Dave Filoni is someone who can kind of look at the feedback from the audience and hopefully take some constructive criticism. I don't want him to think that, like, the show is bad, because I don't personally think it was bad. But I think there was definitely a lot of areas that could have been improved. Pacing. I think that there were some small mishaps in the writing that, to me, are maybe minor, major nitpicks. Nothing massively problem to me, but there were still some holes in the writing that could have been patched up pretty easily. So I think overall I'd give the show a 7 out of 10. Again, it wasn't amazing. It wasn't like Rebels or Clone Wars to me, but it wasn't bad either. I didn't think it was on the level of like Obi-Wan Kenobi. I didn't think that it was on the level of like Boba Fett either. At least I like the story of Boba Fett, but at least Ahsoka dedicated all 8 episodes to the main titular character. It wasn't, half Boba, half Mando. So I definitely would say Ahsoka's better than Mando. Or it was better than Mando Season 3, of course, for sure. It's better than Obi-Wan, and I think it was better than Boba. But I would still put it underneath Mando Season 2 and Andor, and then Rebels and Clone Wars, obviously. But, the shows, I think it's clearly not done, so we'll hold out complete judgment as it on a whole. But as a season, I think 7 out of 10 is a fair ranking, and that's what I'm going to go with. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the finale, and I hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts and my review. Thank you for joining in. Darth Momo out, and may the Force be with you. Always. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. If you liked the video, comment down below and hit that like button. Oh, and check out some of my other videos. I'm sure you'll find them delight.